Welcome, my friends and enemies. Glad you are here. I am a professional, so I'm always ready to not be ready. So, we have an interesting topic. Kind of out of left field. Wasn't expecting it. Not gonna lie. But it seems interesting because it's a bit of a controversy. Because the implications kind of throw you lefty, righty, and undercut. Yeah, right. Uppercut, I guess, would be not undercut. Wow. Shameful. Anyway, so what we have is this from Pirate Nation. Sony is developing AI that censors games in real time. Sony is developing a patent-pending AI system capable of real-time censorship of video game content. It automatically detects and modifies mature or sensitive material such as violence, gore, sexual content, and profanity. The technology uses AI to analyze on-screen visuals and audio in real time, dynamically intervening by muting dialogue, blurring or masking elements, or replacing assets like blood effects or character models to reduce intensity. Now, what could be wrong with this? Well, it sounds wrong because it's censorship. But is it being sold as a censorship? Now, you could argue that it's not a bad thing, or it is a bad thing. So you could say it's bad because you're censoring material and the gamer needs to decide what they play or they don't play, etc., which I would agree with. The position they're actually taking is a little bit funnier. Because imagine this is if, you're playing a game and your kid wants to play that game, right? So you put the game in for them, and then you go to the settings, and then, you're Jimmy rigging everything, right? The stuff that you don't want your kids to see in a fun game, like blood, decapitation, that kind of stuff. But it's a fun game in general, but you don't want them to be experiencing that because maybe they're too young or whatever the situation might be. Maybe there's just too much violence, or maybe there's some suggestive content, whatever the case might be. But besides that, the story's phenomenal. The music's great. You're like, oh, okay, just a couple of these things. Well, then you go into your settings and you say, I want this to prevent my kid from seeing this. And you say, oh, that's a good thing. I don't want my kids to be exposed to certain things since I want to be a good parent. Makes sense. Checks out. However, this has two sides of the coin. So on the flip side, you have this technology being there, and the reason it's there is to protect you. But the other side could be, well, maybe they're trying to control what you can see, which is censorship. Now, I think it's a bit more of a nuanced topic because this doesn't tell you all of the information. But granted, there is a difference between intention and real life. So let's take a gander at what they're actually claiming is going to be the case. Coming from Interesting Engineering. Sony files AI censorship patent to make PlayStation games playable for all ages. Sony's approach would allow players to customize what they see and hear without developers creating separate game versions. Sony has stepped up its push to future-proof PlayStation as it prepares for the next console generation. Recent system updates for the PlayStation 5 show incremental improvements. At the same time, Sony has begun testing technologies that could shape the PlayStation 6 era. One of the most striking developments comes from a newly filed patent focused on artificial intelligence and content censorship. Now, that does sound really bad at the first sound, but then they're like, okay, well, let's give an argument as to what it's for. Now, whether it's malicious or whether it's innocent, that's yet to be seen. The technology aims to make games adaptable to different audiences without changing their core design. That sounds like a bad thing, and it sounds like a good thing. And let me go into why. Because there's a lot of content you shouldn't let your kid play. Like you as a parent should censor. There are instances in which your child does not need to observe that kind of content. They do not need to intake that kind of content, whether it be highly sexual, highly violent, explicit language, etc., etc., etc. And your child shouldn't be really open to that kind of material until they're of an age in which they can understand that content and understand like why it's good or it's bad. Like it's the same reason you don't say we're censoring video games by putting rating systems on them. It's like, well, E for everyone typically means everyone can play it. It used to be GA, general audiences, was for like the youngest of the young. Like it was allowed to let you, like you didn't have to worry about your child consuming something that they shouldn't consume. So you felt kind of safe as a parent to say, I can get this for my kid. It's okay. It's like the Bluey kind of games. Like the Bluey games don't have anything in them that are like violent, suggestive, or sexual content. They don't have anything in them that is stuff you shouldn't let your kids see. But because the GA kind of went away and they kind of moved everything to the rated E for everyone kind of rating system, you have this now everything's rated E. Even stuff with some minor language, some mild violence, mild drug or alcoholic content, etc., can still technically make it in there. And then they have everyone 10 and up, which is silly. It's like then it's not rated E for everyone, it's rated 10 and up. Now, granted, these are suggestions, they are not laws. So that's slightly different in this situation, possibly. But then you have teen, which is supposed to be like 13 and up, right? Like that's 13's the first teen, so it makes sense that that's the first time it comes to be that way. And then you know that kids younger than 13 probably shouldn't be consuming this content. Not that they can't, not that you won't buy it for them anyway, but that they probably shouldn't because there's something in it they're not ready for, or whatever the case might be. And then you have things rated M for mature, which typically lots of gore, lots of sexual content, just violence over the top, the explicit language, all that kind of stuff. Like things that you're like, if you're under 17, you should not be consuming this kind of content. Again, suggestion. Well, what happens if somebody goes out and buys their 12-year-old a rated M game like Grand Theft Auto? Well, the child thinks behaviors might be okay, or they might not think that. I mean, different 12-year-olds, some of them are smart, some of them are not. That's why they're supposed to learn. If they're in their learning phase, they're supposed to consume things. But dependent upon the parent, maybe they can consume it and it not be very effective on them. I'm not talking video games making kids violence or anything like that. I'm talking explicitly their view of the world and how it adjusts. Like a 6-year-old learning the F word. It's like the F bomb specifically. If they start young and their parents are always using it, their friends are always using it, they're just going to assume it's okay to say. And you could argue, yeah, it's okay to say. It's like, well, should you say that? Is that proper behavior with people? Like if you meet somebody for the first time, you say F you, like that just seems like you're teaching rudeness rather than you're teaching, the proper use of the word, right? And if you're like, hey, I don't think a 6-year-old should learn that language. Like if once they're 18 and they're an adult and you're like, you're making your choices on your own now. Like nobody else is going to control you or put up barriers around your life. Like you're on your own at this point. Well, that's different. So it's when you raise a kid to be polite, when you raise a kid to be disciplined, when you raise a kid to think for themselves and be intelligent about scenarios and stuff, it usually doesn't come with the excess of garbage, which is basic society's usage of things. It's not a we're controlling or censoring your kids in that way. It's saying they're not old enough to consume this content, just like we don't think they're old enough to consume pornographic content in 3rd grade. Like they're not old enough for that, and being a good parent is saying that that's not good content for them. So yeah, if your kid wants to play Fortnite, it's like, well, it's not rated M, it's rated T. There's violence, but there's no gore or something. It's like, yeah, you could argue that. It's still a crap game, but you could still argue that. And then you go to something like Gears of War. It's a fun game. Love it to death. At least the first 3. However, you shouldn't let young kids play it. right? And for this situation, it would be ridiculous to even apply it to Gears of War in the same way, you could just tell them not to play the game. Like, I'm not going to buy the game for my kid, or I'm not going to let my kid play this. Because if you have an AI system that's censoring this, and you're like, I need to censor all violence, all gore, all explicit language, all that kind of stuff, you basically blotted out the entire game, because the whole game's just that. Like, that's what it is. So it would be silly to do that for that. So even with this AI system, you still have to choose games that your kid can play, or that your teen can play, or something. Like, you're still choosing the games because the AI is just trying to prevent this thing. And at the same time, you are like, parents are going to treat this like, the parents who think that this, like, oh, I can get games for my kids and then I can not have to worry about it. I can stop being a parent. I don't have to parent my kid. I don't have to control what my kid sees because the AI is going to do it for me. I think that's a bad idea, because now you're throwing off your responsibilities as an adult, explicitly a parent of that child, and throwing it to the side because, oh, somebody else will do it. I mean, parents have been doing this for forever in public schools, so what am I going to say about that? Yeah. But you're saying, hey, I don't need to be the parent in this scenario. I only have to let the AI in the PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 6 be the parent. That's bad, but a lot of people are going to be lazy about it, and that's what they're going to end up doing, one way or the other, whether they do it intentionally or unintentionally. And it kind of like, well, I'm not going to let my kid play something that's hypersexual or explicitly, like, graphic in language and stuff like that, because I don't want my kid to think that's okay behavior in real life, because then we get a lot of what we see in everyday life when you just walking around and people can't freaking control themselves in any shape or form. And they just, I go to work and then I have conversations with people who can't go one sentence without swearing in it. It's like, you don't need to. I'm not saying you can't, but I'm just saying, like, the fact that you can't not swear is excessive, because those are the same people who are like, like, oh, I ain't gonna do nothing, and then your kid gets beat up because they were saying a bunch of words to other children and the other children didn't appreciate it, and they start beating each other up. It's like, well, none of that would be there, right? And this sounds excessive. In some situations it is. Other situations it's kind of, this is sad because this actually happens, and it's stupid stuff, right? Like, just raise your kid properly. Like, treat them with, like, tell them to be kind to people. Tell them to, be a kid. Don't try to rush to be an adult, because if you're just rushing to be an adult, well, guess what? You're going to get treated like an adult, and nobody wants to get treated like an adult when it's bad. But as a parent, it's my responsibility for my boys to say, this content is safe and okay for you, and this content is not safe and okay for you. And if you're not familiar with video games, then consult somebody who is familiar. Like, hey, what kind of content is in this game? Because you can look at the ESRB, and it can lie to you. Like, I've seen things where it's like, oh, it has, alcoholic content. I'm like, there's no alcohol in the entire game. What do you want about? Like, the ESRB is half the time just a guess. So it's like, okay, well, what if I get them this game? It says rated E for everyone, but the girls are scantily clad. It's like, well, I don't want my kids seeing that. They don't need to grow up on that. So there's certain things you need to, as a parent, censor for your kids, not let the AI do it for you. Now, on the flip side, if it's a really, really, really good story, it's a really fun game, everything about it's great, but it has like one scene in it, and it's like, well, that scene is leaning over the edge for the content for the kids, so I can utilize the AI to block that out for them, and then they can enjoy it. I mean, when I used to go to the movies with my dad, if there was a scene where there was nudity or anything like that, he would put his hand in front of my eyes, because he felt as his job as a dad to protect me from the content I should not be consuming at that age, because I was very young. And you could say, well, why did you take it anyway? It's like, well, we were going to see a movie. We didn't know that content was in the movie, and he was just doing what he could do to prevent me from being exposed to that. I mean, that's at least him trying and attempting to be a good parent. It didn't mean that I couldn't see, some violence or something like that, because it would depend on the age. But if you're like 4 years old, you're not taking your kid to go see Deadpool, right? Like, no good parent would do that. Who would do that? Everyone. And even the movie makes fun of you and says, don't bring your effing kids to this effing movie, ironically speaking. And it's just like, don't be a bad parent. Don't take your, it's not a kid's movie. Censor yourself. Don't let other people censor you for you. Censor yourself. So personal, responsible censorship over somebody else censoring you, like not letting government censor you, not letting AI censor you, or something of that nature. You're supposed to be responsible for yourself. But if you're going to just say screw it all and ignore everything that I just said and ignore everything in those real life scenarios, well, then you don't have to worry about anything. You can just go about on doing your day. Okay. But does that mean this AI system is going to be very good? Not necessarily. Is it helpful under certain circumstances? Possibly. So let's check out a little bit more of this so that we are aware of the details. The filed by Sony Interactive Entertainment on December 9th, the patent outlines an automated system that analyzes live game audio and video. The processor then alters that content based on user-defined preferences. Sony designed the tool to work across multiple platforms, including rival consoles. Now, here's the funny thing. If it takes a processor to keep this content going, like if it's a processor, you could just scan the whole game. You don't even need to freaking like scan stuff in the here and now. You should just know what's in the game, and then it just scans the whole game and says, okay, anytime this stuff's about to pop up, put this in place, put this in place, put this in place, or whatever. And that might come across okay. But that's going to take a lot of power on that processor to do that. AI-driven content filtering. The patent describes AI models that scan gameplay in real time. The system identifies content that the user wants to censor. It then applies filters without interrupting gameplay. According to the filing, artificial intelligence, AI, models are disclosed to customize audio-video, AV, content, such as video game content based on user-provided content filtering parameters. The technology can mute offensive language. It can blur or hide gore and nudity. I mean, as a parent, you're like, oh, well, if my kid comes across something that I couldn't fully vet because I'm not big into video games or whatever the case is, because most parents are not big into video games. But let's just say, I don't know. This helps prevent that. It's like saying, you blacklist or whitelist sites, right? You say, I want my kid to be able to visit these sites, but I don't want them to be able to visit these sites because the content is not good for my kid. For their development health, from like a literal like academic side of research, it's not good for my kid to consume this content, as opposed to, I want them to consume this content, right? So you find things that you're like, I know for a fact you can play this game. Like you can play Minecraft, but not on a public server. You can only play on a private server with other like watched stuff. So you're not having like the Roblox nonsense going on. Like it's a protected server where them and their friends can play together and whatnot, safely away from all the creeps, right? As opposed to forcing them to play in a Roblox scenario where everything is just creepy. The system may also remove scenes entirely. In some cases, it can produce or replace censored content with AI generative alternatives. And that could be useful in some instances. It can desexualize characters or scenarios, or just remove a scene of like a character going to a strip club or something. It's like the kid doesn't need to see that. I don't see adults using this content really. Maybe a very, very small minority that are very, very picky about stuff. I don't see adults doing it. But for children, I could see it being a valid use, provided this is not mandatory and this is something you have to opt into, not opt out of. Sony's design allows a second processor to handle the censorship work. Okay, that means another processor you got to pay for. That setup reduces strain on the main system. It also enables the AI to react quickly during gameplay. Well, yeah, why not just scan the game and have everything preset as like, mark this as sexual, mark this as offensive language, mark this as blood, mark this as gore, mark this as violence, and just, that. Because otherwise, games like Grand Theft Auto all of a sudden are just blurred out or removed completely because it's just everywhere. It's literally everywhere. You can't go anywhere. So it's like, why buy the game for your kid then if that's the point? Like, it's stupid. Otherwise, the AI is just going to make a whole other game for it, which is funny. Built for customization. The patent places strong emphasis on user control. That's the claim. Is that going to be how it turns out? Players can set their own content parameters. These settings determine what the AI filters or replaces. The system alerts players before sensitive content appears. It can also notify them during playback. Users then can choose whether to remove the material or replace it. Sony describes the technology as flexible. Players can adjust preferences at any time. The AI responds immediately to those changes. Sony also notes the system works across most major computing ecosystems. That compatibility opens the door for adoption beyond PlayStation hardware. So, it sounds good because it can protect children, but it can also sound horrible. This is the slippery slope fallacy. It's the thing that you're like, oh, this is great because won't anybody think of the children? And then they use it in an authoritarian manner, and then they just block everything out, and it's just blah 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 blah. Now, it can start out with somebody in the company saying, hey, what if we did this? And people thinking, oh, yes, we have very innocent intentions for this. However, then it comes back around, and we have later on down the road, somebody says, well, let's make this mandatory for all our systems, mandatory for any of the content. You have to have this. And then we over at Sony, or we, whoever has control of it at that time, says, we control what you play, because we're putting it into monitors or TVs or whatever now. Like, the entirety of everything is going to now be controlled by some freaking company somewhere. That's a terrible idea. So it's a kind of a slippery slope, and it's like, okay, well, if this is like something that if it ever was to go quote unquote into law, like they make it the law of their, like, using these TVs, using these monitors, using these consoles, PCs or whatever, and if they could just control what you see or don't see, then that needs to be stopped. But if they give you an option like, hey, do you want to be able to change the settings on your console so that people that have, can't see color the same way as somebody else, do you want, like, they see reds, blues, greens, and everything differently because they're colorblind? Do you want to be able to set this so that the game makes sense for them? Excuse me. And you can say, well, yeah, that's a good thing. But there's no slippery slope. It's not like, well, now we're going to change everything, so everything's colorblind. Ha ha ha. There's no nefariousness behind it. So this could have, like, positive effects, but it also could put it in a very weird place when everything starts using it. So you have to start not buying those things and sticking to the content, like the TVs that don't have it, the monitors that don't have it, the computers that don't have it, the consoles that don't have it. And you'd have to, like, literally push back against it. I don't see people doing that as much because people like to consume content and then prepare to eat more content, as we've seen in these slop fests that are in pretty much everything. So the technology could reshape how developers approach content ratings. AAA titles may allow optional censorship layers instead of separate builds. That shift could expand their audience reach. Now, I do think this is funny because, and I think they actually mention it in this article. I don't remember. I read it earlier. I don't remember already. Things like having to build two builds. So, like, when you go to Japan and then you go to America, the content can be very different. They have, like, the characters dressed in entirely different clothes because one's too suggestive, the other one's, appropriate, we'll say. It's like, well, you shouldn't be playing that game if you're looking for appropriate, because it's by definition not appropriate. And it's on the developers to decide whether or not they want their game to be appropriate or inappropriate, because there's games where you can play it and it's just like, yeah, you got a bunch of girls in bikinis and stuff, like the Dead or Alive Extreme Prison Vacation. Like, it's designed for you to look at pretty girls in scantily clad outfits and take pictures of them and, do fun actions, dating sim type stuff with them. That's the point of the game. So you're like, well, we're going to take the dating system away because that could be sexual. We're going to take away the scantily clad, so we're just going to cover them in burqas or something. Well, you just don't make the game then. So if they can say, oh, well, this isn't good. Like, Japan does this for a lot of their content, right? Japan will say, we don't think, or we're not going to make this game available anywhere outside of Japan because everywhere else is just going to complain about it or censor it to no end, right? And then they don't want to pay to put out a second copy version of their game. They want their game to be just their game, and everybody else has to adapt if they want to play it, which I think is fair. Like, if you're going to make a game, people should either play or not play based upon the content you put in the game, because that's the content they're paying for. You're paying for that content. So if you're paying for that content, you should get that content. So, in some ways, I think it would help, because then they don't have to keep branching off different versions for different regions, right? Like Arabia versus Europe versus America versus Japan and South Korea and stuff. Like, you don't have to make a different version in each version or in each country. So it would be a little bit nicer in that regard. Let's see. The system would not target average adult players. Instead, it focuses on parents, younger audiences, and content creators. Streamers could avoid demonetization risks without disabling gameplay entirely. Like something like this, for those who didn't know, when Baldur's Gate 3 came out, right there, originally, it has a complete like nude mode where you can like see genitals, you can see the boobs, you can see everything based upon the interactions. So if there's a sexy scene, there's sexy time, or whatever the case might be. You could just, like, you're in your character creation and you just go over and it's like, do you want, you're a girl, do you want a vagina or a penis? Or you're a guy, do you want a vagina or a penis? It's just there. And that'll get you demonetized on YouTube or most streaming platforms, right? So this could prevent someone like myself from playing a game with having no knowledge of it prior, and then just turning it on and playing it, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I just got demonetized and my stream taken down. I'm getting strikes or whatever the case might be. Like, it ruins the guy's night, because you're a content creator, you're trying to make content, and you can't make content when you're getting your streams taken down. You're not making money to continue making content because, well, I'm not making money anyway, so it doesn't matter. But point being is, I'd rather have my stream be up and interact with everybody than it being taken down because reasons, right? Games with heavy adult themes may still pose challenges. Titles like Grand Theft Auto 4 rely heavily on the entire Grand Theft Auto series relies heavily on mature content. Extensive filtering could significantly alter the experience. Yes, so just don't freaking buy the game or don't set the AI settings, whichever one you think is going to best fit. Don't do that thing, because it's pointless to do. Like, I'm going to buy Grand Theft Auto and I'm going to get the AI censor it. Then don't play Grand Theft Auto. Play literally anything else, because there's no reason to do both those things. If you want to play Grand Theft Auto, don't censor it with the AI. If you want to censor it with the AI, don't play Grand Theft Auto. It's literally one or the other. Doing both at the same time just literally doesn't do anything, right? So that's pointless. Even so, Sony appears focused on accessibility rather than restriction. I can understand, as a business, you want to have the largest audiences possible. However, when you make your game so accessible to everyone that you forget the target audience, then you don't have even the target audience, and you don't have everyone, because nobody wants to play it. Nobody cares. It's so watered down, it does not exist in anyone's mind, because there's no reason for it to exist. So why make it? There's no point. There's no reason to do so. The patent signals an effort to make more games playable across age groups. It also suggests a broader role for AI in console-level moderation. The problem is this could also potentially be used online games to, some are already using it like this, but this could also mean that if you're playing an online game and somebody says a bad word, it's getting bleeped out or something. I don't know how you do that in real time, because you can't scan the game. It's just a person saying something. But when they do stuff like that, they get you bans or something. It's pointless at that point. And then we don't get to relive the whole Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Xbox lobbies, which are pretty fun, not gonna lie. I should have been there, but I was there. Sony has not confirmed when or if the technology will reach consumers. Patents often remain experimental. Still, the filing offers a clear look at how Sony envisions AI shaping future gaming experiences. So it ultimately comes down to, is this a good move? Is this something we want in gaming? Well, obviously for us adults, we're like, we don't like this. We don't want this, because It gives somebody like Sony the power to censor games that we want to play, the way we want to play them, right? Like imagine if you have this set on a PC, right? And you have an AI watching everything, but you're also like, I want to do some NSFW mods for whatever campaign or whatever game you're playing. Well, now they're going to tell you what you can and can't see because your mod is now going to get blurred. It's going to get replaced with a different image. Like the girl you think is in a hot string, like G-string bikini or something like that, that's very, very little covering, is now wearing granny panties and whatever the case might be, or maybe a full clothed outfit. And you're like, that doesn't make sense. You're in the middle of the ocean. But whatever the case might be, for adults, we don't like that. We don't. Now, does it have a nice aspect from a developer perspective? Like, I don't have to make multiple versions of the game for multiple countries, and I mean, that's less money that takes for development. It gets the games out faster. There's like legitimate reasons to have this be in it, and you don't have to worry about all the excess. But at the same time, it sounds like too much control. And people with that kind of power very rarely are nice about it, we'll say. All of a sudden, we're living in 1984. So then you have things like the parental aspect. Is it good for parents? It can be. Is it good to help kids? I mean, you should already have parental judiciary decision making before you even get to this point. Like, you should already know, I don't want my kid playing this. Like, I don't want my kid playing this content because this content is not made for kids. It's made for adults. It's made for teens or whatever the case might be. Like, you don't want them to consume something that's not for them, right? Makes sense. Now, most parents just let their kids play whatever. They're like, oh, you're 5 years old, go for playing Grand Theft Auto. Who cares? It's not a big deal. And then the kid grows up and is like messed up somehow because, you know, parental advice and everything. Like they weren't parents. They were people who had kids, but they weren't parents. And then it messes kids up because kids watch every aspect of an adult. Like, my kids look at me and will like copy things that I do. So if I go around and I just start swearing everywhere, my kid's gonna start swearing everywhere, and then everyone gets mad at the kid. You're not supposed to say that word. Well, he's learning it from me. If I do an action and he does the action, it's like, well, it's okay for me to do it because I'm an adult and I have the ability to decide things for me, but it's not okay for him to do it. Right? So that kind of content, kids are always watching what we do, and I'm not trying. And it's kind of randomly turned into a parents conference or something, and it was not my intent, but it kind of just came out because I'm a parent. But when you're a parent, you want your kids to have the best childhood they could possibly have. Now, for some, that is letting them do whatever they want. I consider that bad parenting. You should not let your kid do whatever they want. You need to guide them and say, here's the things that's appropriate for you to use or to do, to play with, to participate in, whatever the case might be, because you're a kid. Let the kids be kids. And then as they get older, you can change that filter as a parent. So it's like, okay, well, now that you're older and you are more aware of things, and we've had these conversations that this isn't real, this is not okay content for you to behave normally, like as a person, but in the game, that's part of the feature. So you're allowed to play these kind of games now. It's kind of like, okay, when you were young and you played Super Smash Bros. And you beat each other up. Well, then you go into the other games and you have people, Mortal Kombat, ripping out spines. Well, you obviously didn't let your kid play Mortal Kombat ripping out spines. Some people did. And they're not the same thing. One is just, you know, knocking them off of a screen. There's no gore. There's no thing. You get these big pow sounds and effects and everything, and you have fun little items and stuff. And it is violent, but it's not violent in the realistic stage. But then you get to Mortal Kombat, and the Mortal Kombat's doing stuff. You're 5. You should not be playing that. I mean, probably shouldn't be playing that at 10 either, but I mean, it depends on the child. Some children can adjust to it. Some will be overloaded by it, even though you think they're adjusted to it. So it's a very fine line, and as parents, we're responsible to make sure we take the best care of our children. I don't let my kids downstairs when I'm playing video games because the games I play are not made for kids. I'm playing games where I'm killing animals to getting stuff like No Man's Sky. You're killing an animal to get materials and to fulfill missions. And my kid would literally be sad if if he saw me do that. And that's just me shooting with a laser. That's not like there's like hordes of blood and guts and everything. It's not decapitation. It's not like I'm going over there and skinning them on like Red Dead Redemption style. Like no. I'm literally just going zappy with a laser. The laser beam hits the animal falls over, and I get stuff. Nothing happens. It's very quote unquote kid friendly. But I still wouldn't let my kid, because my kid would not want me to hurt the animals, right? Like I don't want them to see that, but I'm also not going to censor my game experience because my kid wants to watch. If my kid wants to watch, I say, well, I'm going to play a different game later. If you want to come watch me play that, you can play that with me, or watch me play that, or something like that. That's my decision as a parent. But when it comes to like me playing Baldur's Gate 3, like I play Baldur's Gate 3 with Sage, not a whole lot of kid-friendly content in that. There's lots of blood, bit of gore, very horny characters, sexual content, alcohol, lots of swearing. Like, it's not made for kids. So I'm not going to let my kid be downstairs in my man cave with me while I'm playing that, because I don't want him to consume that. Now when he gets older, I'll be like, yeah, let's play Baldur's Gate 3 together, because now you're old enough to understand the difference in things. You're able to make your own decisions. That's a different story. But when he's 5, no. So it's that kind of a thing where sometimes, and like I even ask my friends, like, please don't swear when you're over here, because my kid's gonna pick up on it, and he's gonna get in trouble if he starts going around saying swear words, because it's not a kid's place. Now when he becomes an adult, if he's gonna swear, that's his thing. It's my job to teach him to be a good kid, and then a good teen, and then a good adult, and then from there it's on him. Most adults swear one way or the other. So it's not like I'm saying you don't swear. I'm not telling people come on the channel, don't swear. I gave up on this channel being a family friendly a long time ago. But thanks mostly to Matt, Sage, like all those guys. It's just not gonna happen. And it's just like it's fine. It's whatever. But I also don't let my kids watch my streams. I don't let my kids watch my content. I don't let my parents watch it. I don't let my wife could watch it if she wants to. She's just not interested. She doesn't care. But it's just, it is what it is. Like, it's a parent taking care of their child. It should not be seen as a bad thing. And if you have a problem with me saying parents need to be responsible, then that means you're A, either not a parent, or B, you're a bad parent. Because parents have to be responsible. People with kids don't necessarily have to be responsible because they're not parents inherently. Some people dip their kids. Like, they just peace out. I'm going to go get some smokes or some milk, and then they never come back. It's like, you're not a parent. You're also not a good person in general, but you're not a parent. Like a man treating his wife right so his kids can see, like, this is how you should treat women. There's a lot of cultures out there that don't have that, and therefore they treat people less than. That's all on people making their responsibility choices. So AI should not be doing this job for you as a parent, but it can be a good aid. And I know people have this thing because I've lost subscribers because they think I'm pro AI no matter what. And it's like, no. I just think that good AI, where it's done by artists and people who make actual true works of art and bring ideas to life through AI, will overwhelm the slop, the bad content eventually. And that's where more content can be made. Because at this point, we have so little content being made that we're going back to the 2000s to play our games or to watch our films or whatever. Like, we don't care because there's not as much. You might have like 4 good films come out in a year. 365 days, you get 4 good films. But if you have AI making some decent films, or people utilizing AI to make decent films where artists are working on it, you still have the human touch. It's not like you just push a button and boohoo, everyone's gone. I don't have to pay nobody. You might be able to, but you might not be able to also make money off of that, right? Like, it depends on how that's going to look from a legal perspective in the future. But being able to like, I want to type in something about the Wheel of Time, and I give it all, like, I just feed it the books and say, produce this. And it makes like a perfect 1-to-1 adaptation, and it's amazing. It's also like 6 million hours long. I'm here for it. But if nobody else wants to consume it, at least I can consume it. Nobody else is going to make a crazy, amazing Wheel of Time experience, in my opinion, other than what I could make if I had AI that could understand what I'm trying to tell it, and just feed it the source material and say, make this. If it could do that, nobody else, no human person is going to be able to pull that off. But I'll also get an experience I actually want. I want a 1-to-1 adaptation. I understand that it's not likely if you put it into a movie or a TV or something, but it's something that I would like, and I can't consume that if other people make it, because it's just not going to be good. I'm going to have a complaint. Like we do, Lord of the Rings has problems with it. The elves never went to Helm's Deep. Arwen didn't save Frodo. Tom Bombadil should have been in there. Glorfindel should have been in there. All these things, but they're still good films. We enjoy them, but they're not the perfect films when it relates to the adaptation of the books. But they are fanatically fantastic cinematography works of art. Like they're phenomenal, and I love them to death. But I would love a 1-to-1 Lord of the Rings adaptation, and a 1-to-1 Hobbit adaptation, and a 1-to-1 Silmarillion. Like, imagine a world in which you could make that come to life. Would be phenomenal. But for all the artistes out there, oh, my camera just freaked out. For all the artistes out there, you cannot make that come true. You can't. It's literally impossible. For rights reasons or for other reasons. Like, just, you physically aren't. Hollywood will never make a 1-to-1 adaptation of The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, The Silmarillion, or other things. But if I want to make it in my own household and I'm not distributing it, or maybe even if I am, I'm not making money off of it, or maybe any money that's made off of it, it goes to whoever holds the rights, whatever the case might be. At least somebody can see something that they enjoy. But I am, at the same time, I'm not okay with companies just completely wholesale controlling the entire industry, which is why I'm more in favor of the open source AI than I am the subscription-based AI, because subscription-based AI, if it gets better than the open source, which I don't see that happening, but if it didn't happen, then you're going to have a couple of companies that control AI, control all your content. Period. But we already have Hollywood controlling all our content, and that's why it's all trash for the most part. There's like a few exceptions to the rule, but it's usually independent studios. It's usually not mainstream. It's usually Asia. Asia has better standards than America. That's how sad this is. So, all that to say, could this be good? Could this be bad? It's iffy. I can see a positive use for it, but I also think that parents should just exercise personal responsibility as a parent, not as just a person who had a kid, and actually take care of their kids, love their kids, that kind of a thing. Like, this should be basic, obvious. Why is anybody talking about this? But at the same time, I could see it being taken over by somebody with malicious, nefarious intent, and it being horrible. So if it's an optional thing and it will never be implemented as a mandatory or a requirement, then I'm actually not against it inherently. That might change as more information comes in. Things are different over time. But for now, I would say it's not inherently bad. But it could be. So what are your thoughts? Leave a comment below. Tell me I'm stupid for talking about parents and stuff, because, I mean, that's what I do sometimes. But or tell me you agree, disagree, whatever the case might be. What do you think about this Sony AI censoring stuff under certain circumstances that you set up? Is that a good thing? Is it kind of a scary concept? Do you like where it's headed? Do you not like where it's headed? That kind of stuff. Leave that down in the comment below, and then check out the description for socials, Twitter/X, Discord, where I'm active probably the most, and also follow on Criticless. When they put out their video game reviews and stuff, it'll go nuts. But you can also just check out all the cool reviews of everything that's there. Also, you can check out content creators down in the description that you might find interesting, that I think are worth following. You can also check out companies that support free speech anti-censorship, all that kind of stuff. And not anti-censorship as in you can't censor anything, but like they don't let adults be censored when they can make their own choices, as opposed to a kid. There's a difference. So yeah, check that out. Like, comment, subscribe, follow for all that kind of stuff, and share. You guys are awesome. Thanks again, and remember, my friends, walk in the light.